I was thinking about before I scheduled this. If you recall, didn't schedule this towards the end of last week, and it's I was I fell down into a depression, and I think we're all in this together, and I think we've all been there. If you haven't been, you probably will be at some point where you're down on yourself, you're down on the dumps, you don't know what is going to happen next. My business is reliant on you. I'm here to help you succeed. And if you're not succeeding and the products aren't there, well, it's a trickle down effect. Your business is hurt. My business is hurt. And we get down in and you start focusing on that, and you start getting more and more depressed and like, oh, woe is me. What are we going to do? Having the whole pity party thing. But then, I thought about it, and lately, the last actually few years, I've kind of subscribed to the philosophy, and actually it's about as true as it gets. You only live once. You got one shot at this, and every day is a choice. So we make the choice whether to get up in the morning, whether to stay in bed with our heads over the covers. As bad as it is, we've got to pull ourselves out of it and be ready when the world gets back in order. So, what did I do? I've been described as overly optimistic. I've had, when I've had jobs, I've had reviews that said I'm overly optimistic and unrealistic expectations. But you know what? The truth of the matter is I choose to believe. I choose to believe that I can hit those goals. I choose to believe that we can do whatever we want to do and not be confined by a lot of the circumstances and the numbers from the previous year. When somebody tells you, well, you can only expect a 20% increase. Well, why? Why does that have to be? So it's a choice we make, and life is about choices. Our businesses are about choices. And my choice is to serve my clients. And why? With my clients, just a lot of you are clients of mine or past clients of mine, is, I offer hope. I offer hope for your business to take it from one level to the next based on a bunch of experience. But, at the same time, I'm a realist that comes into play there as well. And it's to pull yourself up out of where you might be. The best thing that I found, let's reframe this as an opportunity. We don't get a chance like this. Something like this that has not shut the world down since the world wars back in the teens in the 40s, 1940s. But we have an opportunity here. And I looked at it and I reframed how I was feeling into an opportunity that I can serve. And I can serve my clients. I can serve those of you who aren't. I can serve the industry as a whole and to give back in ways. And that's why I put this on the schedule. But I picked myself up. I went back to my training. I always focus on the fundamentals. Focusing on the mindset, focusing on getting your head in the right place. But just as equally important is staying on a schedule. So instead of laying in bed till 8:30 or so, I started getting up at 6 again. And I take care of the dogs, and I do everything every day. And you know what? I found myself in a much better place, personally, mentally, financially. I've actually had a few folks sign up for coaching programs. So those are the kind of things that we got to do to get ourselves out. And there's nothing that's going to help you pull yourself out of this more than to make a sale. And I know a lot of people are out there telling you, you know what, don't sell, don't be, this is not the time to sell. Well, it is and it isn't. You're there to serve your clients, but you're also there to, to make a living and to service them. And they know that. And just like I'm here to make a living, you're there to make a living. And it all works together because people want to travel. They're stuck. They're surfing the internet. They're looking for things to do, and they're planning their vacations for a little bit further out. So I love this quote by Mae West: you only live once, but if you do it right, once is enough. We got choices we can make, and I choose to live it. And I hope you do too. So today we're going to do our hot seat coaching. We did this a couple months ago where we did it, opened it up for everyone, not just for members of my inner circle and courses that I've got and programs that I've got. So that we just opened this up to everybody because, everybody's got questions. We're all in the same boat. We all want to be take care of business, take care of ourselves. We've got to figure out how to do this. But the main thing is just know we're all in this together. No, you don't have to sit there behind your computer and just focus on the screen. You've got a network of people. And if you're tired of answering, what's the 16th question on your, or photo on your phone, or, these are all the jobs I've had, which one is not it, that kind of thing, start doing things, getting back on schedule, things that will pull you out of that and help you become more productive. So here's the agenda today. We're going to keep this pretty simple. I'm going to talk for probably about 15, 20 minutes. And then we're going to open it up to the hot seat. I see a bunch of hands have been raised, and we're just going to go. Leigh's going to walk you through that. I believe you're going to have to type your question into the chat, and then Leigh will read it out to us. Unfortunately, with the webinar format, we're not able to do it the way we do when it's just our smaller group, where we just get into a meeting environment and everybody just unmutes themselves. So we're going to do this the best way we can, and I appreciate you showing up, because there's a lot of webinars going on, and you can sit there and you can watch webinar after webinar after webinar after webinar and still not get anywhere. It's just a bunch of stuff that starts running together. So I appreciate you choosing this as an important one that'll help you get ahead. So I'm going to gaze into my crystal ball. I'm going to look at the crystal ball there and see what we've got going here. We're going to talk about what you can do and what you should be doing right now to help yourself. I'm going to talk about how I can help you come back stronger than ever. Because you're going to need help. Most people coming out of this are going to need help getting back into the next level, and you've got a great opportunity to do that. I do, as most people know, I read a lot, and I listen a lot because I hike. I'm an avid hiker and climber, so I've got a reading list I'm going to put up there, and you'll be able to just do a screenshot, or I'll have the presentation available for you in the recording to take that. But this is what I'm reading. This is what I'm listening to, and it's not just business stuff. It's other stuff in there as well. And then we're going to jump right into the hot seat coaching. So if you will permit me to give my prognostication of what we have going on in the industry and how it's going to play out. Let's just gaze into the crystal ball there for a minute. Now, the first thing we have to know is this: there are no answers, just educated guesses. No one knows what's going to come next. No one knows when the ships are going to start sailing. Nobody knows when the resorts are going to open back up, or the airplanes are going to start going in full force again, and all of that kind of stuff. The return timeline is really up to the virus, and not just here where we are, whether you're in North America. I know we have folks on from India, New Zealand, and Australia, and mainly North America, and US and Canada. But it's as this comes down, remember how long it took to ramp it up? It's going to take some time to go back down. On top of that, we've got consumer confidence that we're going to have to deal with, particularly as it relates to the cruise industry. Unfortunately, they've kind of been hung out to dry by a lot of folks, and under the circumstances, because it's a confined environment. It's not like an airplane where people are on and off in a couple hours. They're there for an extended period of time, and it just so happened to involve when they're doing world cruises and the much longer itineraries where people are together for a much longer time. Political, you know what's going on there, just like with the governor of Florida not allowing and putting up a fuss for ships to come in. You're going to see that, and ships being turned away from ports. So you're going to see a lot of that positioning and negotiation going on going forward. But there's also the economic factors. I mean, we have, I think I saw the statistic was over 6 million people applied for unemployment last week. 6 million people. It's going to go even more. And we're going to talk about some remedies for some of that here in just a few minutes. I'm going to have Leigh come on and explain some stuff to you. But we're in the middle of all of this. And so all of this is affecting, what the outcome is of our business. And so we have to pay attention to that. But the timeline is up. It's not up to President Trump. It's not up to Trudeau. It's not up to Boris Johnson. It's not up to any political leader. It's up to the virus coming through. Now, what we're going to experience when it does, there is going to be a tremendous amount of pent-up activity. And this is going to be followed by a dip. And how do I know that? Well, we see it after other big events, not of this magnitude, but similar, because you get so caught up dealing with that pent-up demand that you're not creating a pipeline of business to follow up with it. And this may sustain, you may have this bump for a couple of months, but it's still going to dip back down because we're not typically don't take the time to come up and keep that pipeline full coming through. You've got a lot of this is going to be rebooking activity. A lot of that is what you're doing right now. I mean, we are truly in an unprecedented time when it comes to how some of the suppliers are treating this. It's great that they're paying you on commission, paying you commission on the bookings that they canceled that were paid in full. But they're also paying, a lot of them are paying on the rebooking. And these are the kind of things, don't expect this to go on forever. This is a special time in our industry. And so we're just going to see this happen for a short term. So, take advantage of this as best you can. A lot of these, this is another thing too, this kind of helps some of you out maybe, is these certificates aren't necessarily, in most cases, they're actually not tied to the agency itself. They're tied to the guest, to the client. So they can take that future cruise credit or future travel credit and go to any travel agent or any travel agency and rebook it. So this is part of staying in touch with your clients we're going to talk about here in a minute. Most summer and fall seasons are going to be very limited if they happen at all. Just remember, everything we're talking about here today, this is my opinion. This is just based on what I'm gathering, and it's my opinion. It's not the gospel. This is just how I see the industry playing out. And you don't have to agree with my opinion. That's fine. It's just how I foresee this happening. But most of your fall and summer travel seasons are going to be limited, if not at all. I think some of the suppliers that will probably do well are going to be like Uncruise, which is up in Alaska. They're U.S. flagged, and they operate within the state of Alaska. I think that will be fine for Alaska, but they're probably sold out already. But your big cruise ships and land activities and stuff like that, due to restrictions that the Canadian government has put on, the Port of Seattle is closed for until whenever. It's just a matter, again, of time getting back to there. But I don't see that really happening. And if it does, it'll be on a limited basis. Fortunately, a lot of the data that's coming in is now starting to show a plateau or a drop a little bit there in hospitalizations, not in deaths, but hospitalizations. The airlines and the cruise lines are going to come back gradually. Don't expect it to just be business as usual as it was before. There's the pent up demand and they're going to get people booked in, but it's a business decision. I mean, they're taking a hit of, I think the major cruise lines are $1 billion a month. That's a lot of money, but they'll put the ships back and the resorts will open back up in the areas as it expands around the world. Okay. So Europe, for instance, the problem with that is you may have river cruising happening, or some other stuff, coastal cruises and stuff opening up and tours and stuff like that. But we have a travel ban, so we can only fly to the UK. So it's a kind of all the pieces kind of have to get in the same place for us to get back to normal. But it will come back gradually, and it will come back, and it'll come back probably better than ever. There's a lot of challenges that, press challenges and stuff like that. But you know what? We've weathered them before. It's a very resilient industry, and it'll get there. Airplanes are parked on they're closing down runways. Airplanes are just parked out there. It's, as we're allowed to travel more and more, I can't believe we haven't shut down the airspace completely. I watch planes come in from actually British Air 49 comes in every day at 4:30. I see it coming in the landing pattern. I see planes coming in from Asia and China and all over the world are still coming in, passenger planes. And, until we actually shut this down completely, it's not going to slow the effect there. Here's, and this is a fact of life, and we've already seen this to a certain degree, consolidation or worse. In the cruise tour, consortium, travel agency space, you'll see consolidation. We see this typically after just about every crisis that we run into. I think you're going to see some major consolidation going on, particularly in the tour and probably some in the cruise. You'll see some of the smaller lines either merge. You're going to see some of these cruise and tour companies probably go out of business. They just don't have the financial resources to weather it for the long term. consortias, they're kind of the middleman here. So, they can get kind of squeezed out a little bit. They play a very important role, but I can see, most of them are already downsized by, 70 to 80% already. And so you'll see some, I think you're going to see some consolidation happen in that way, in that space. And then travel agency and host agencies, just like after the airlines cut commissions 25, 30 years ago, whenever that was, we saw a lot of them go out of business. Well, a lot of these host agencies are smaller and they're hanging on by a thread right now. And I'm hearing reports of some of them, not the major ones, but some of them not paying their commissions. So this is gonna continue to happen. But it's like a culling of the herd, I guess is kind of a way to describe it. The strong players are going to come out on top. The weaker ones are, right or wrong, are either going to consolidate or go out of business altogether. But it'll be a very different environment at the end of the year, I think. Travel professionals executing a very disciplined and proactive sales strategy now will outperform those who don't. This is the contrarian view, and this is something that we see in other industries, and I think you're going to see this happening in our industry too. It gets back to the whole thing of recency and frequency. Whoever's been in front of them the most recent, most frequent is who they're probably going to buy from. And if you're just sitting back and not, just kind of letting the world go by, instead of engaging them on a very regular basis. And I don't mean just your clients and prospects. I mean, putting some marketing out there, doing prospecting. People have a lot of time on their hands, so you want to get that funnel ready to go. And if you get that strategy going, those are the ones who typically are going to come out of this and not necessarily have that dip, but they're going to keep going. They're going to start that upward trajectory and keep on going. My opinion, folks. That's all it is. Let's see. So some keys to successfully navigating this crisis and getting back on your feet and getting to where we need to go. First and foremost, give yourself permission to take care of yourself, both physically, emotionally, financially. I was in the dumps a couple weeks ago, and I decided to do this. I'd sitting around eating Cheetos and put on about 5 pounds very, very quickly. And I work from home regularly. So it wasn't tied to me working from home. It was tied to just the environment that was going on. And so that's when I made the choice. I said, you know what, I'm going to get myself back into shape physically. I'm going to start eating right, getting my head in the right place. And then, you know what, we all have, I rely on you for my business. You rely on clients and prospects for your business. So we all serve each other. But right now, there's no end result. So we have to take care of ourselves financially, and I think it's important that you spend some money, whether it be on coaching, whether it be on marketing, whether it be on bettering yourself. But you need to stay out there and invest in yourself and keep going there. I'm going to have Leigh come on and talk a little bit about this one. And this is there's a lot of government resources that have been made available to all of us. Different programs and things like that, whether it's through unemployment or SBA or whatever. And Leigh is just like you and I. She's a sole proprietor by herself, serving the travel industry, and she's in the same boat that we all are. So I'm going to ask her. She's done a lot of research in this. So I'm going to ask her to take a few minutes and tell us a little bit about what you found and where places people can go to be helped out financially.
Yep. Okay. So thank you, Dan. So I jumped right on the SBA. It's called the EIDL grant, and I haven't gotten it. I don't think anyone's gotten it yet, but I did put in my application for that. It seems like that's a moving target, and who knows if anything's going to come out of that, but I figured I need to get into the pipeline for that. Again, that's through the SBA, and then Small Business Administration, and then I also applied for the payroll protection program, and I did have success with that. And Dan, I know your experience was a little bit different, but for me, with my small local business bank, they were able to help me through that application process, and I've gotten approved through the bank. I haven't seen any money yet, but hopefully I will in the coming days. I plan to follow up on that. But my biggest resource, the one thing I found is it seems like it's every man for himself. You have to kind of do your own research. But the biggest source of support and information for me has been with my CPA, who usually I just see once a year for my taxes, but he's been a really great source of information. So unfortunately, it is something where you kind of have to do your own research and kind of keep digging in, but hey, I think it's all worth it. And another thing is unemployment. So if you're not, even as a sole proprietor, everything I'm reading says you can go for unemployment if these other processes are not working out for you.
Thank you, Leigh. Yeah, it's, they're putting the resources out for all of us. They're trying not to let anybody not get some money to help get them through. But, I think what this is, and my experience was my bank was inundated with applications on the day it opened up, which was Monday. And by the time I got to it, which was like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they'd already closed down the process. So it's just a matter of now I have to be patient, and when will they open it back up? Because a lot of these for that PPP, the payroll protection, they require that you have been a customer of that bank prior to February 15th. And that's a restriction I think the government is allowing the local banks to do. But just know this, I mean, the reason we talked about this is the resources are there. They're being put out by the U.S. and Canadian governments, and I'm sure other governments around the world as well, to help us get through. And so take advantage of every single thing that's out there. A lot of these you don't even have to pay back. So it's something you want to look at there. All right, call your clients. You've been hearing this from a lot of people, I'm sure. I've said it since day one. Call your clients, call your prospects, call anybody on your list. People are at home. They're answering the phones. And stay at home means isolation for many people. A lot of us, particularly, if you're with an organization that does caters to an older clientele, you may be the only thing they have. They can get online and email and stuff like that, but nothing beats picking up the phone and just calling them up and, saying hi, seeing how they're doing, see if if you're in a position to help them, take groceries to them, whatever. Every little bit helps, that contact, more than anything else. I know my mother-in-law is 73 and she lives with us, and she has not been out of the house other than to let her dog pee in the backyard. She has not been out of the house in 28 days. 28 days. Her lifeline is her phone. So there's a lot of folks that are out there like that, and a lot of folks don't have anybody. So pick up the phone and call them. Just call them and let them know you're thinking about them. You don't have to try to sell them anything. If you're more than happy to tell them, what's available going forward, because a lot of them may just ask you for that, just as part of conversation. But, reach out. It's above all, it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do. It shows how much we care we talk about how much we care about our clients and everything else. We got to show them. This is a great time for this. In many ways, this crisis is a blessing of sorts. For a lot of us, our businesses are gone. I've talked some of my coaching clients, 90% of their customers canceled. Some of them rebooked, obviously, but a lot of them are waiting. But it disappeared. The business evaporated overnight. And here's what's cool about this, though, is, that kind of means you've got a blank canvas to work with. You may have gotten into the business for certain reasons and got into a rut or a routine of just pretty much handling anything and everything that you got in. For some of you, that may have been how you learned the business. But now you're in a position, you know what? I want to do something with this. I want to make this my business, not their business, my business, so I can build it the way I want it to, and live the dreams I have, and take care of the clients the way I want to take care of them, and serve the people that I want to serve. And it sounds a little selfish, but it's true. You're in a position and you have the knowledge and the resources now that you didn't have when you first got into the business. So now it gives you that opportunity. And I'm assuming a lot of you are independent contractors and agent stuff, but it gives you that canvas to work with. It gives you I'm doing that. Even with my business, I'm looking at it and I'm saying, okay, how can I serve my clients better? Where do I need to be, moving the needles and moving the shells around and providing better service and better opportunities and better coaching. I'm doing that. You have the opportunity to do that as well. Investing in transferable business skills. I actually, in talking to one of the folks that signed up for a program last week, that was her biggest concern was, I don't want to just be stuck selling travel. If something like this happens again, I want to learn skills that are going to be transferable into something else. I was in the shower this morning. I was trying to think, what's a great example of this? Well, driving. We all know how to drive, right? Well, you can pick up you can drive for Uber. Right now, the trucking companies are hiring. Yeah, you got to do a little bit more training, but you could go work for them. Amazon is hiring delivery drivers. Grocery stores are hiring delivery drivers. So that's a transferable skill that you have. One of the things that I invested in very, very early was selling skills. It doesn't matter. That's basic fundamental skills that I developed when I was in my late teens and early 20s. Are transferable into every opportunity I've ever had. But tomorrow I could go and sell just about anything. And it's not because I can sell, ice to an Eskimo. That's not it. It's because there's a process to selling, and I mastered that process very early on. And you can do that. You can master those processes so that if something like this happens, you can I guess pivot is the word to use. You see that a lot. That's kind of the thing. Pivot around in your business. One of the skills that I teach is networking. Well, that whole networking process of the second and third level contacts, where the bulk of that business comes from, actually originated with the study about how people get jobs. And I help people get jobs. Probably 5 or 6 people get jobs every year. So I'm considering transferring those skills and that knowledge into helping people get jobs, because so many people are out there without jobs, and they need, even particularly within the travel industry, they're going to need help getting back on their feet. So learn skills that you can use in multiple careers going forward. It'll pay off in dividends down the road. Find or develop that niche. I wrote a column last week for the Insider Travel Report, and I had someone reach out to me. It just spoke to her. Find that niche. When you're reinventing your business, you want to find the niche, the one that you never had time to get to, or didn't take the time. Just, what's your passion, and really work on developing that. Focus on the future. I'll just put these both up here. Focusing on the future. We don't know what the short-term environment looks like, but we can be pretty safe in booking things out into 2021 and 2022. So, and that's where a lot of your clients are looking at too. So focus on that. Don't focus on what day to day. Focus on the big picture further down the road, and that'll help you get there. Here's the other thing too, and I want you to take this to heart. Get comfortable with higher prices. Limited inventory means that they can keep pricing at a premium. They're not bringing all the planes back, not bringing all the ships back, not opening the full resorts. That's going to command higher prices. I've had a lot of people call me or email me and call me and complaining that, we're finding that prices are about 25% higher. So that's a good thing. That is a good thing, because you make 25% more money. Okay. So higher prices is a good thing. If you've been following me for any length of time, low prices is what practically bankrupted me at one point. Okay, it was when I started focusing on higher priced and itineraries and things that people will pay, and that people will pay for it. They're willing to spend the money on it. That's where we started making money, because you've got to make money. You can't sell everything low, and if you can only sell a price, you need to get in and do a lot of learning, and because you need to make yourself part of that transaction where you are as important as the cruise, the tour, the airplane seat, everything else, where they wouldn't think about doing it without you. And to do that, once you do that, you're able to confidently command a higher price. And let's talk about your role going forward. I have a lot of people who have reached out to me about this. I don't think that the travel industry is going to come back. I don't know where I'm going to, provide any value. Well, I tell you what, then if that's how you feel about it, you haven't been paying attention for the last 5 or 6 weeks. because the role of the travel agency is more important now than ever. You've probably read the articles about people, sitting online for 7 or 8 hours with Costco and some of these discount operators and stuff like that. You want to build a relationship. You want to be a trusted advisor, just like their financial advisor or their doctor or their attorney or a CPA, like with Leigh, her CPA. You want to be part of that going forward. And to do that, we have to be very knowledgeable. Okay, we have to be frank, we have to be honest with them, and we have to focus on, selling things that are going to make money so that we can stay in business. Okay, servicing is something that you do after the sale. Okay, because if you don't sell anything, you're not in business and you won't be able to service your clients. That's how it goes. You could service your prospects, but that's all part of the process of getting them to buy. That's bringing them down through the sales funnel. And so you can spin that however you want. But the reality of it is once they're a prospect until they make a sale. Once you make a sale, then you're there to service them because that's what you're paid to do. And then you take care of them from then on and get back into the cycle of remarketing to them to keep them as a customer. So that's kind of where I see it. I think we're more important than ever. I think the OTAs are going to be there. It's the landscape that it is, but I think you're going to see consolidation, as I said, in a lot of these travel organizations as well, whether it be with the host agencies, the travel agencies, and the consortia. But we have a very important role. We've weathered those times just like the suppliers have. So we're not going anywhere. It's just how do we reimagine our role going forward? And for each of you, that may be different. But reimagine your business and what you do. Now's the time. Now's the time to start thinking about that. So I was thinking about, as I was pulling myself out of this dump I was in, I'm like, okay, how can I serve my clients? How can I serve you to help you become better, to position yourself so that you're going to be ready when this goes and have a very clear strategy of what you need to do. I'm not talking about a business plan. I'm talking about a sales strategy. Everything that you do in your business should support your sales strategy. And particularly if you're reinventing your business, now is a perfect time to get one in place, get the right one in place. So your marketing, your PR, all of your advertising, all of your operations, everything you do, the suppliers that you support, all go to support your sales strategy because that's the number. And we get paid to sell. And so we've got to focus on generating revenue. Cash flow is king. We all know that. Right now, we don't have an opportunity, but we can build that pipeline. Building that pipeline is important. So what can I do to help? Well, I wasn't going to do this, but Leigh and I were talking about it. She said, people need this. They need to hear about this. And so instead of having someone commit to a 6-month, 12-month coaching program, we'll do one session. Sales strategy sessions where you'll walk out of there with a clear strategy. You'll come out of that with a clear to-do list, things that will get you going so that you'll be able to ramp yourself up and be ready to go as soon as they start booking close in. And these cruise lines, these tour companies, they're booking. They're booking right now. A lot of these cruise bookings up a couple of weeks ago was up over the same period of time last year. So take advantage of that, but you need to have a clear strategy. And now is better time than any because you've got a blank slate to work with. Now, the Inner Circle, which is formerly, I used to call it Players Club, but people thought it was a casino deal. So we renamed it, but it's more of a self-study coaching program. There's a whole course in there that goes over, building solid foundation, attraction marketing, prospecting, the sales process. Remember, the sales process is transferable to other industries as well. The follow-up. The most successful people that I know in any sales, they're very good at prospecting and they're very good at follow-up. And then after follow-up, we have retention followed by scalability going forward. For all of this, there's no long-term commitment. It's month to month. So if you want to just do one session of coaching or just join for 1 month, that's it. Okay. And you just tell me, hey, I don't want to go forward for the next month, and boom, away you go. So this is what I can do to help you. I've got to make a living just like you've got to make a living and everybody else has to make a living. And I don't expect to get rich off this by any stretch of imagination. No way, shape or form. But this is how I want to help give back. and help you be ready and positioned so that this investment will pay off in dividends down the road. That's what coaching's all about. It's about paying off in dividends. So here's my reading list I was talking about. Some of these are things that I've read before. Some of the things I've been revisiting. I participate in 2 coaching programs. One I pay 15 grand for. The other one is only about 200 bucks. And one of the 200 buck one is the One Thing coaching with Gary Keller. Gary Keller wrote a book called The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. I've been saying this for years. Once I read it, I said, you know what? You can just take the word real estate and replace it with travel agent, and you pretty much have about 90% of what it's in there will help you get where you need to go. The One Thing is a follow-up that Gary did to that. Rocket Fuel. Rocket Fuel identifies the type of person you are and stuff like that, and where your best role is in your business, and what not to do, what to pay somebody else to do. The Side Advantage is a book written by the founder of Nerium. It's a direct marketing company. It's on my list. I haven't read it yet. Sea Stories, Bill McRaven, Admiral. It's listen to it. He narrates. It's a fantastic book. He's the one that is best known for his speech about what do if you want to start out right, make your bed in the morning. Make your bed. Atomic Habits. I have issues keeping on my habits because we all do. So Atomic Habits helps clarify what that is. Lead the Field. This is what got me started back in the early 80s. Earl Nightingale was one of the founder of the self-help industry. And it's still to this day, I listen to it 3 or 4 times a year. The Alchemist, it's got some good lessons in it. It's about a shepherd boy. Burn the Business Plan. Carl Schramm is a renowned professor and fellow, and I found that to be a very interesting book because I'm not huge on business plans. I'm more on things that work and things that you can do now to take action on. And he discovers that most of the major businesses didn't start out with a business plan. So it's an interesting read or listen to. And then, of course, I would be remiss if I didn't throw my own in there. Get Your Ship Together, The Wealthy Travel Agent Guide to Sales. It's available on Amazon, and all of these are available on Amazon. I don't have any clickback links or anything, but mine's available on Amazon. It's on Audible, and you can also read the Kindle version of that. And so we will actually, if you want to, Leigh, if you can take a screenshot of that, and then maybe I think you can put it into the comments or put it save it so people can download that. Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'll do it.
I think I might have taken a little bit longer than I wanted to there. So let's get it on. Let's get to hot seat time. So what we're going to do is Leigh has got your questions. She's going to read them to me. I'm going to be the first person to tell you up front, I don't have all the answers. I will give you the best response based on my experience and knowledge and my thoughts on it. And if I don't know, I'm going to tell you I don't know. And maybe, and if I can think of some place to refer you to for the answer, then I'll do that as well. But hey, and if you want to follow me, if you want to, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, if you want to send me a direct note, send it to dan@danchappelle.com. And the Wealthy Travel Agent podcast is just kicking butt, man. We got listeners. It's really taken off far more than I ever expected. So it's available on Apple Podcast or your favorite podcasting service. So let's get started, Leigh.
Okay. I want to start with some good news and share something that I think we can all learn from. And this
I love
is from
good news.
Shelley. Yep. She says, we've been calling 10 of our clients a day just to check on them and be the voice of hope. We have rebooked over 80% of the cruise lines canceled cruises, and I booked $63,000 this morning before the webinar. So
awesome.
Right,
I'm hearing stories like that, people,
yeah.
I talked to somebody yesterday that just booked, $50,000 biking trip. It's incredible. So the opportunities are there. We just got to go out and get them.
Yep. That's right.
Okay.
Okay. So, big question for you. I started my agency on March 1st. This is from Morgan. Okay. And I hit a wall right away. I have no clients. I'm not working on any rebooking. How do I start marketing a brand new agency in this environment? And is it even possible to start marketing from zero to brand new prospects at this time? If so, how would you start? And the Morgan's focus is ocean cruises and ocean cruise groups.
Okay, so that's a big question, and there's a Expedia Cruise Ship Center's agency in the Toronto area that opened up on September 10th, 2001. And they experienced the same thing you have. And they're like, whoa, I just opened up. What am I doing? Question, are you brick and mortar or home-based?
Not seeing that answer yet.
Okay. So there's some things to do, particularly if you don't have a list. And it's in the program on the where I teach you about prospecting. It's about it's the Acres of Diamonds concept. A lot of you have heard me do that presentation that I have on that. People, you have a network of people that are close to you that you can reach out to, and don't ask the ones who are right, on your front line, your best friends and that. Don't ask them to book their travel. Don't ask them for anything else like that. Ask them, who do they know who would be interested in taking a ocean cruise next year? And would you mind giving me their information? So you can start building your list like that. A lot of folks are looking in Facebook groups where they specialize. They're coming in as an expert, an SME, subject matter expert, and answering questions. You can't sell in there, but it builds credibility. And those are some things that you want to do there. In your local markets, probably hold off on any paid advertising unless you do something on Facebook or one of the social things, because it's relatively inexpensive to do that. You can target just your specific area that you're in if you've got a business page. But I'm a big believer, as my longtime listeners know, in prospecting, and that's going out and finding warm leads, not the great big web out here where everybody thinks that they are, because everybody's competing for that, but focusing on the people that who know and like you, and have relationships with people who will do business with you based on those relationships. That's how I would get started. Nobody starts out, doing $1 million a year. You start out doing 10,000 a month, that kind of thing. But if you do that, and then you start positioning yourself as down the road, to these folks, not asking them to book anything immediately. Let's look at 21, 22, particularly groups. Groups are going to be in 2022. When it comes to the group part of the question, it depends on the type of group. Are you going after affinity groups, or are you building speculative groups? Spec groups are one you're probably not going to see a lot of action on. And then for the affinity groups, you need to find out, again, get online, find out where they hang out, and develop relationships with them. And then you can start offering your services to them down the line. Right now, I'm not going to lie to you, this is a shitty time to be starting out, but it is, there are things that you can do. And main thing I would encourage you and everyone to do here is keep a schedule. Time blocking. This is one of my principles I teach, is time blocking. Take a day, like Morgan or whoever it was that said that they call 10 of their clients every day. Take time every day. That's something we all have right now. And start your prospecting process. And I teach it in detail in the, if you sign up for the inner circle, but it's the third module in that program. It's all about prospecting, how to get to the people who are actually going to that want to do business with you, that fit the profile that you're looking for. That's a big one too. Most people just take anybody and everybody. When you're prospecting, then you're going out for a specific profile. Hopefully that answered the question.
I think that's great. Thank you. Okay. The big pain point, I've seen it this variation of this question and comment come in. It's about these supplier relationships. So I'm just going to read you this one and then add on to it. We have this comment. It says, 2 big-time suppliers have refused to pay my commission on prepaid canceled tours until after my clients have rescheduled and they've traveled next year. My argument is that all agents will remember the tour operators who were good to us. Any ideas and help on how I can get payment would be much appreciated. So there's that. There's how to figure out which suppliers are even going to be in business after all of this. how to go up against the airlines. I mean, this is sort of the theme, so probably worth spending a little time on this today.
Okay. All right. So first and foremost, you know, the suppliers are businesses. They're businesses just like you and I on a bigger scale. They have their own cash flow problems. They have their own crunches. They're striving to stay in business as well. I mean, the most visible ones we see are the cruise lines because they're bleeding cash. It's a very expense focused fixed expenses in particular. It costs billions of dollars to run those ships. So, they're trying to hang on to as much cash as they possibly can. Tour companies are in most cases, they're kind of a middleman in there, depending on, who they are, where they've hired out in local markets, guides and services and hotels and stuff like that. So they're working on extremely thin margins right there. That includes probably some of the shore excursion companies that are out there. Gosh, there's not an easy answer to this because they're not trying to screw you. They're just trying to stay in business. And, under the circumstances, I think I'm going to address real quick the question about, who do we know who to support? I'm going to say this lovingly, don't hold grudges. As I said, they're just like you. They're out there doing what they can so that they can stay in business to serve you down the road. What they didn't do, from what I'm hearing from that conversation, is they didn't say no to the commission. They just said no right now. They said no, they'll pay you after travel, as they normally would have done on what it was booked. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to say then, depending on the company, you may have anywhere from a 95% chance to 0% chance of collecting on that. I've got receivables out as well that I'm probably just going to have to write off. And it's just, it's an unfortunate thing, but, they don't have a lot of money either. And particularly if they had all this staff and they're laying them off, they're trying to build the war chest. They're trying to keep as much cash as they can. And that's the name of the game right now. I mean, they're all scared, just like we are. This is not defending them in any way, but just, know what they are. It's not an us against them thing. They're just trying to survive. But it may come across sometimes in that way, but don't think of it like that. Who's going to be around? Well, I think your major cruise lines, the public companies, are going to be around. I think you're going to see some of the smaller ones, particularly probably in the expedition space, that are pretty new or highly leveraged. I shouldn't say signal out the space, but I would look at the companies that tend to be highly leveraged are the ones that are going to probably not make it through as you knew them before. Tour companies, I think, you'd be safe with anything from the Travel Corporation. And I'm just throwing out some names, so don't take this as a gospel list or anything else. Companies like Talc, who've been around for 100 years, those are the ones that I would probably, focus on there, because they're focused on taking care of their distribution system more than anything else. It's more the mass market product, I think, that's holding on to the cash. It's just like the discount sellers. I mean, they don't have a margin. So they're not going to want to refund whatever is there except the net rate if they can get away with it. And the more they can, the reason why these cruise and tour companies are giving future cruise credits is because they need to keep cash. I mean, it's business. And so the longer they can do that, and the more it makes them more stable, so that they're going to be around. I know I went in different directions there. Did that kind of cover it? Or, hey, and if I didn't, bring me back in.
It's a hot topic, and most people are disagreeing with you on this, to be totally honest.
Well, and I've been on that end. I mean, I've been on the end holding the bag, with a cruise line that went bankrupt back in the 90s, that, I was out a lot of money because of that. And
yeah.
I don't really know what to say other than, stick to your guns, keep trying. I had one client that owed me $1,500 that from a consulting contract I did with him that I had to follow up with him multiple times to do that, but he paid me. Okay. So if you're the persistent wheel in there, you're going to be most likely to get paid. But do I think it's right what they're doing? Holding on to, particularly like a excursion company or a tour company, holding on to that money. No, I don't think it's right. But what are you going to do? You can sue them. But who's going to take that case right now? I fight for your clients. Yeah. Fight for your clients more than anything else. Fight for them to get their money back or get a tour credit for them. And then they're going to do what they do because they can. And that's the unfortunate reality about what we are. And when times get tough like they are right now, they're circling the wagons, and we are as well. So stay on them. Stay on them, stay on them, stay on them. If you've got the time to stay on them, I think you should do that.
Yeah. I just flashed into my mind about the movie It's a Wonderful Life when there's the run on the bank and he's got just a couple of dollars left and he's trying to figure out and everybody wants their money. It's definitely a strange time we're in. And there are, we're getting comments here, that it's awful, but they understand. So.
Yeah, I mean, and the reason I'm saying what I'm saying is because, if you recall, I was vice president of sales at WindStar Cruises at one time. So I've had that supplier hat on as we were coming out of a bankruptcy situation, and I've been on the side where most of you are as the travel agent. And I know there's some tour operators on here because I had one email me a question just before we went on the air, and so there's not an easy answer to it. Again, we're in a time that nobody has seen, and they're just struggling to survive, just like we're trying to struggle to survive. And by giving credit for things that people have already booked, they're deferred. It's considered a deferred payment, I think, more than anything else. But fight. You got to fight for your clients, and usually squeaky wheel is going to get it. Particularly with the smaller companies. The smaller companies will tend to be more flexible in their policy.
Mm-hmm. Okay, time for you to get out your crystal ball.
Yeah, because that last one was...
I'm done with that. I'm done with the controversial topic. We'll move on from here and keep it upbeat. Just had to get that elephant out of the room. This question or comment, China is opening up from the lockdown today after just a few months. How soon do you imagine Europe will do the same?
Well, I think it's going to be, again, strictly my opinion. Well, I'm July. I mean so we had a big family vacation scheduled for Italy and a cruise out of Venice that's been canceled and not by us. So that's all that tells me that they're looking at this. But again, it gets back to the virus will make the timeline. What happens is in the political part of it then jumps into play. And so it's okay. When are we going to open up the airspace so that we can fly into Rome or into Athens or into Istanbul, into one of these major hubs other than the UK, into Heathrow? It's all going to play out. And I think it's going to take a couple months for that to happen. That's just my opinion. So I think, we need to hunker down and put solid strategies in place to, have those celebratory stories that you were talking about where they're calling and booking. These people are booking. It's important. People want to get something on the books. They want hope. And that hope is that trip that they're going, and it may be next year, and that's okay, but they want something that they can strive for.
Mm-hmm. Julianne just typed in that she's heard Switzerland will start April 26th. I think she means maybe opening back up. And then Mark is typed in that he's heard June 1st is the guide from Europe. So That's just sort of what's being heard out there. So,
Yeah, and so folks, here's something else I want to make sure that your sources are, you know, credible. And I don't mean Fox News on this side and CNN on this side, and somewhere in the middle it meets. Go to the John Hopkins website if you want to follow those trends as far as what the virus is doing throughout the thing. Go to the government pages for the United States, the State Department advisories and things like that, and see if there's anything there. Because that's really, at the end of the day, we can sit here and prognosticate all we want to, but at the end of the day, it's when they make that decision. I know Trump wants to open things up sooner than later, but I think, you know, more level heads are saying, okay, and he's starting to come around to it. He actually admitted that, I think, yesterday in press conference, but, you know, let's let this run its course, and then we'll start making decisions outside of there, you know, when we can open things up. Because it's not just going to be, you know, the United States when they can, okay, what European countries are going to allow it? And I think because of the proximity of European countries, which are like states here in the U.S., and I think you'll see more of those cluster open than what you're going to find in other areas of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Again, my opinion, only my opinion.
Yep. Okay, well, I want to dig into your brain and vast experience and ask you some best practice business type questions now.
Okay.
We have a question from Debbie. She's doing a new website in her spare time, and she's decided she wants to focus on luxury clients and vendors, and she wants to know how to say luxury without clients thinking it's too expensive. And she has some luxury clients that are willing to spend the money, but for those who she may need to transition into mid-level cruises, you know, from luxury.
Sure.
How does she convey that quality without it sounding expensive?
So it's easier to use the cruise business just because it's more clearly defined. So I would say on your homepage, you put, you know, a seaborne ship. What would be the next level down is in the hierarchy, which would be probably like Azamara or Oceania. Okay. Kind of tier those down so they'll know. The luxury clients know the brands. They know what's there, and then that'll help start the conversation. But you're not putting out a price. You're not putting out, hey, if you want to go on a cheaper cruise or cheaper tour, here's your list. Call me here. You could, you know, if you want to actually, you know, do a page that's here's a luxury product, here's a deluxe product, and if that's what you want to focus on, don't put a contemporary product page up there. This is a big piece with your niche is you need to pick your suppliers, and that's who you're going to focus on and do business with in that segment, and people will identify with that. If you put up there, you know, if you're putting it, I use this comparison a lot. You know, if you want to sell that $20,000 Seabourn cruise versus a $299 Cancun package, well, you gotta put it out there. People are going to buy what you show them. You tell them they're going to buy what you tell them that you sell. So let them know that, you know, here's the luxury end, but you know, if you're more interested in this, because of don't just put it out there because it's cheaper, because this one may have a better culinary program or things, you know, position it like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks. We had Rhea uses the word refined rather than luxury. So
there's a lot. There's a whole list of words you can use, words and names.
Yeah.
And folks, we're gonna stay on for, well, at least another half hour. So don't feel like you have to get off if you've got questions. We'll try to get to everyone.
Yep. And we're recording too, so we can get that out to you. All right, let's see here. Several people asking what you think about charging fees right now. Should we continue with our regular fee model, or should we lower fees, or what do you think?
So that's up to you. Just know if you lower your price, lower your fee, that's going to be the expectation when you come out of this. It's very easy to drop them. It's very hard to raise them. So, you know, in talking to me, yeah, I'm charging fees. I'm gonna charge the fee no matter what, because you got to get paid. You run into a situation like what we're in right now. Yeah, you're getting your commission protected on stuff, but you've got other stuff that may have canceled that you're not, and the only saving grace out of that is your fee. So yeah, charge your fee, because people are there. It's typically the travel advisor, agent, professional that is uncomfortable with the fee, not the client.
Mm-hmm.
You tell me, if I'm looking at doing a trip in 2021, and you tell me, okay, and you've got to be upfront about it. Don't hide it. Just say, I've got planning fee at $250 per person. Okay. Yeah, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives you, and you could even say, and that gives you unlimited changes up to a certain point. Because remember, anytime the price drops, anytime anything happens, you got to touch the booking, and it dilutes the revenue you make off of it. So there's ways you can spin that, but yeah, I would charge the fees.
Okay, and for advisors who may just be starting to charge fees or researching what they should be charging, is there an industry standard?
Not really. And it really depends on what your expertise is. So, if I was an African safari specialist, I would probably charge at least $500 to $1,000 in a fee for that specialty, because of the knowledge that I've acquired, and not just taking an online certification course. No, that doesn't make you an expert. Having experienced it, multiple times, knowing the guys, knowing the people, knowing everything about it, makes you more valuable. Just like a lawyer, they go to school, or a doctor, they go to other schools to make themselves more valuable. You have to do that, and then you have to position yourself that way. So that's that. Now, if I'm just selling anything to everybody, and I've got somebody who wants an African safari, I can't get away with doing that, because I don't know anything about it. I'm not knowledgeable. I'm not going to be able to really help them, and they'll figure it out really quick. Okay. They'll figure out. So if you can provide real value, then by all means charge what you feel comfortable with. And maybe you do it based on product. Maybe you do it based on, is it a group? You've got planning fees, or an hourly rate, or, you can do those fees in a lot of different ways. My only advice here, because I can't give you, that advice as far as being what to charge. My advice is charge it. If you're going to charge fees, and don't let them apply against a final payment or anything else, because then you're right back in the boat where you started, giving it away.
Yeah.
If you're going to charge a fee, charge a fee.
Yeah. Vicki followed up and said, what are your thoughts on cancellation fees during this pandemic? We've always charged a $50 per person cancellation administrative fee unless the trip had been canceled by the tour operator or cruise line. Thoughts on cancellation fees for those afraid to travel due to the pandemic for their future trips that haven't been canceled by the tour operator or cruise line? So
that's a great question, and I think you do that on a case-by-case basis. If it's somebody who's canceling a trip for next year because they feel that they're not going to be, you've got time in it. Okay. Always remember this. You don't get paid until they actually travel. That's when you actually earn the commission. Whether you get paid for it, 2 months prior on a cruise, or after they travel on a tour, it's not yours until they actually take that trip. That's how you define that. So what do you have to do in the meantime? Well, you put time into it. So shouldn't you get paid in some way, shape, or form? Yes. Cancellation fees. I'm a big believer in that. You may, and for a lot of you, may not be comfortable charging upfront fees, but people will always agree to cancellation and change fees because they're used to it. Everybody does that. So you put whatever amount that is, and then you can take it on a case-by-case basis. If it's somebody who's 80 years old booking a trip for 2 years down the line and she's afraid that she's not going to be able to go, I might do that. But if it's a young couple, or again, however you judge that, and do it on a case by case. And if it's a very good client, You may want to, but make sure they know you're doing them a favor if you do it, because it's taking money out of your pocket. I mean, again, let's get back to the business part about this. I mean, we hear everybody's talking about you get your head in the right place, do this, do that. It's still a business. And every time you refund somebody, it's taking money away from you. You need the money to survive right now just as much as the next guy does. So if they're canceling and they've agreed to that fee up front, well, there you go. Change fees are always good because sometimes you can end up making more money than you did prior off the commission for something like that, depending on how you price it. But I talk about all of that in some of the courses and programs that I've got, but it's a lot more depth than what we have time for here.
Yeah. Okay. So this is, I love this comment, and this is always one of my favorite topics that you do. So maybe thought we could talk about this, because I think this is sort of the golden hour for travel advisors in many ways. But Kim wrote in and said, did those who booked through Costco, did they not pay a fee called their membership? So in other words, even if people say they're not paying a fee, they really are, because they've paid their membership fee, to be a Costco member. But, I think beyond that, just thinking about what's happening to a lot of these online agencies right now, probably Costco Travel included, it's it's worth it to be with an advisor instead of having a relationship with a website.
Well, you could even do a comparison chart. When somebody says, "Well, I'm looking at Costco," well, you do and I'm just thinking about this right now. Do a comparison chart. So this is what happened when they shut down the industry. Boom. On hold for 7 hours, not able to get through, not able to get this, not able da. Here's where I am. No relationship with the client. It's like Delta. It's somebody different every time. Here's who I am. I was ahead of this. I'm in front of this. I've got this. I'm the relationship. You come to me. I take care of it. Boom, 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 boom. Here's your value. That's part of your value proposition that you have in there. I think that's awesome. Position it like that. They pay a fee to be a member of the Costco. That's not a booking fee. That's a membership fee. There's a difference. I pay a membership fee so that I can get my 2% back. I pay it so I can buy, go in there and buy toilet paper and everything else. Travel is just an ancillary service. It's just a member benefit that they offer. It's not a booking fee. I wouldn't be surprised. Well, maybe I would. I don't know them. I don't want to speak to them, but I wouldn't be surprised. Possibly they may do something down the road, but they keep the hot dog for $1.50. So, who knows? But I think you may find, not forget Costco, but some of the other online discount operators, I think you might find down the road, they might start charging a fee. Now, the fear that I have here is that, we'll do all this for a while and then it'll just go back to the way it was in a couple of years. That's what keeps me up at night. And I think once, there's some changes that are going to come out of this. I don't know exactly what they look like yet, but like after 9/11, we got to do the perp walk going through the metal detector and the line and everything else. That stayed. There's going to be things that come of this. I don't know what they are.
Yeah. Okay. A couple questions about how to stay out in front of clients right now. Waldo wanted to know whether a blog a couple of times a week would be of benefit. And Esty wondered, just in general, what sort of topics or free offers or lead magnets or, what creative ways can we stay in front of clients? So,
all right, so there's two questions there. There's two questions there. One of them is, how do you stay in front of your clients? The other one is, how do you attract prospects? Okay, so the lead magnet part is the prospect part. Clients, prospects. Okay, so prospecting, you do the things that you did before. So I would do travel tips. So I'm going to address that one first. Maybe download my top 10 packing tips, download my travel tips for when all this comes out, download what to carry to stay sanitized while you're traveling, something like that. I don't know, carry hand sanitizer, right? I used to collect all this hand sanitizer from the travel shows I would be at, and then sometimes I'd throw away, sometimes we'd donate it. Now I wish I kept some of it, but what do you do there? Okay, so those are the kind of things. So that's a lead magnet. Okay, that's different. That's how you get people into your database. The other part is the blog, and the blog part, I think right now would be a fantastic time to do that. There are companies out there that'll do it for you if you don't have the knowledge or the resources to do it yourself. But I write all my own stuff. But what you're doing is you're giving people hope. If you're describing, I subscribe to one, I forgot what it's called. It's out of Denver, but it's a luxury travel blog, and it comes out once a week. And it's on a particular destination. It's very clean. It's very crisp. The pictures there, and it goes through. I mean, it makes me want to go. And so when you're doing this, don't write just to write. Do it with a purpose behind it. So it may be education. It may be to make people feel better. It may be to give them hope. So that whole recency and frequency thing that we talk about, so that you're building that relationship with them and making it even stronger. And it will, your blog will also become, if you do the SEO and all that stuff right, which is not something I'm super familiar with, it can be found on searches. So start building your list. And the best way though is to reach out to your existing clientele and ask for the referrals to people. Getting those are people who will want to do business with you because it's called the strength of weak ties. And so you've got the weak tie as someone that someone they know, but they don't know you yet. And they're comfortable doing business with you. And that's why people who are close to you typically will not book with you. They're the ones who milk you for information and go book it with somebody that they don't know. That's the whole principle behind all of this. And again, I go through it in the if you sign up for the inner circle, that's prospecting module 3. But yeah, so that's a different thing. So yes, I would say yes, prospecting, because you always want to keep prospects coming into the funnel. But the blog is a great way to communicate with the ones that you have.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. For this question came in from Lisa. The question is, do you have host agencies or consortia that you recommend? And I'm thinking, if people are reinventing their business, they're probably reevaluating all their relationships right now. So
Yep.
What do you need to look for when you are evaluating some sort of relationship like this?
Yeah, that's a great question, because that's something that I do when we're developing the sales strategy, because you have to have the right partners. And I'm not going to name names because I don't want to sound like I'm giving preferential treatment to anybody, but based on what your vision of your business is, if you want to focus on the luxury market or the luxury river cruise market or whatever, then you want to go out and do your research, go out and find those host agencies or those consortia that specialize in that type of clientele. I can think of 2 big ones, 3 off the top of my head. Okay. But they're out there. Okay. And then you need to vet them. You got to see if it's a good fit for you. If it's a host agency, is it the right split? Don't be afraid to have a split. Don't think they're taking money from you, because a good host agency is going to provide good services, particularly on the marketing side. Most of you aren't marketing people. Your job is to sell. And so the host agency and the consortia, their main role is to provide marketing support. I know. I mean, I've been on both sides. As a supplier, we paid a fortune to the consortia and to the host agencies for marketing. Okay, because we can position that the way we want it. We can do it, and then your job is to go out there and sell it. So you've got the resources there to work with. So identify. This is your business. You have to identify what you want to do, how you want to take it. Who the clients are that you want to deal with. You put that all together, and then you start searching for who's the best host for me, who's the best consortia, who's the best suppliers to cater to what I do, because you can't be all things to all people. Okay, so you want to put that together and then build your sales strategy so that you've got a solid game plan going forward that's going to take you to the next levels and beyond, and transform your business from whatever you're doing. Yeah.
Okay. So I've just got a couple more questions here. So everybody listening, if I haven't gotten to the gist of your question and you have something else that you'd like me to bring up, go ahead and put that in the chat box now, and I'll do one last review on those, and we'll make sure that we haven't missed anything. So Dan, back to Esty just is asking for a few concrete suggestions on encouraging Facebook friends to go out to my blog or to any kind of a lead magnet page. So any ideas on hooks, like how do you hook people into taking that next step?
I kind of do that with my book too, because it's available on Amazon. And so what I do is I'll put a post about once a week about my book, and it may be a picture of someone who had bought it and took a picture of it while they're on an airplane or at a beach, or I've one at the Eiffel Tower. Put that out there and just kind of describe, hey, this is a great shot around the world. Love to have your picture with my book from wherever you're at, and then just put the Amazon link if you want to learn more about it, and then open it up for comments like that. You don't do a strong sell, but you say, hey, you know what, if you want to learn more about the best way to pack for your vacation, and as long as the bulk of your people are not industry people, as long as they're true outside the business, if you want to learn more about how to pack, go out here to this. And you could pick a subject that's even the best ones. People this is the one that gets probably the most response is recipes, and particularly now that people are at home. Say, I know Oceania is printing recipes. Viking has recipes on their website. Go and grab some of those recipes, and then do a post about, hey, I know we're all dreaming about going to Germany or Hungary and to Budapest. And I remember the time I was sitting in this cafe and I had the most delicious goulash. And Hungarian goulash is very different than Midwest. It's not macaroni and tomato sauce. It's true. It's a beef stew. It's a stew, and it's just absolutely. So come to my, click here, and you can get the recipe. And they get to the recipe. You put a wall up first. Say, give me your email address, and then we will email the recipe to you. I think that's the best way to do something like that. Things that aren't just related to what it is you're doing right now. Because people are sitting there in front of their computers all day long.
Yeah. This is a good question from Sajad. What innovative disruptions, if any, do you actually want to see in the travel industry post-pandemic?
That's a loaded question, and one that I don't want to give a loaded answer to.
Yeah.
I think it's there's a couple things, but it's mainly about the distribution system. I think you're going to see, I'd like to see some consolidation. I would like to see, all right, here's probably the best way to say this, but it's not going to go over well, and it's not. So this is just my opinion. Insurance agents are regulated. They have to complete a test. They have to be licensed. Real estate agents have to take a test. They have to be licensed. They have continuing education. What we do is virtually identical to that, but yet the cost of entry to get into the business is next to nothing. You don't have to be qualified in any way, shape, or form. So I think what I would like to see, and a lot of people disagree with me, so don't give me the hate mail. I don't need the hate mail. But I would like to see it more of a, I don't want to say licensed necessarily, but make it a little bit harder to get in, just because a lot of people get taken advantage of sometimes by people who claim to be travel agent but really don't know what they're doing. A lot of them just will never have a clue. They're not interested. They just sign up so they can do their own travel, and then somebody books it. So that's kind of what I would like to see more of, but I don't think, personally, I don't think the industry will allow that. The industry is more about, we're going to sell how in any channel that we can. Travel agents just happen to be the most visible, but they have travel agents, they have wholesale through some of these tour companies. In fact, Penant was a cruise line nobody ever heard of until about 5 or 6 years ago. Okay. That's because they were big, but that's because companies like Tauk and Road Scholar and those kind of companies would charter their ships constantly and sell them as their tours. Gosh, I think it's again, it's a loaded question, but that would be the biggest thing I would look for, is to have more, I don't want to say legitimacy is not the right word, but more hoops to jump through other than, fog a mirror and write a check. I guess that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. The professionalism of the industry. And I get what it is, but, back to the channel part, then you got charters and incentives, and you've got online direct business is a huge piece of it. So there's a lot of different channels out there, and people have different ways to sell. And a lot of these that you've never even heard of do a tremendous amount of business. So it's all just a matter of putting butts in beds, and that's what they want. Now, from our side of it, um, yeah, I would just like to see, and I've said this for years too, but I'd like to just see the barriers to get in, the fences around it to be a little more tighter, I guess.
Yeah.
Does that make
Well, a
sense?
lot of people agree with you. This is a hot topic, and there are a lot of supportive responses
I
to
just don't
that.
think you'll get the suppliers behind it, and just know that CLIA is not the Cruise Line Industry Association of Travel Agents. It is the lobbying group and the pack of the cruise industry. It's owned and financed by the cruise industry. The education piece of it is a big piece of it that was brought on to educate travel professionals to sell those products. But I don't see CLIA. I could see ASTA getting behind it. I could definitely see that, but
Mhm.
and I would like to think CLIA would get behind it, but I don't. Again, just my opinion. Just my opinion.
Yeah. And a couple other good ideas that came in. Mitch would like to see a new path forward where there had to be an escrow on all funds until the cruise or trip began. So, he says it works fine for real estate, and we would not have these money issues in the future. And Morgan would like to see commissions just go away completely for cruises and tours, just like with air, and go to a net pricing model where agents get to set their own prices. So that's interesting.
So Morgan, I'm a big fan. You just got a big attaboy in my book, because I'm a big believer in that too. You know, the only thing is that the cruise line, the tour company, whatever, they set the price. The commission is in between, and then the only way people get it lower is typically if they cut their commission out. But if you take the commission out all the way, then you can price it however you want. It's more competitive. It's just like buying a bottle of ketchup at 7-Eleven for $10, or buy it at Costco for $2. That kind of thing. I mean, it makes it it's truly a level field, assuming that the net pricing is level. So that's that part. I'm a huge fan on that. Mitch, your question about escrow. It's not a new thing. We would actually be going back to the future when we do that. Back in the 80s and 90s, we were, I don't know if it was a requirement, but I know all the travel franchise organizations, when I first got in, we had to have an escrow account to protect the money. There's the claim a lot of times that you're not processing the credit cards, so it's the cruise and tour operators who are actually doing that, and so they're keeping the money, and so you're not really doing anything other than, just like with the airline, you're just paying for it up front. But I'm a big believer in escrow. The escrow part would be, I don't know how the way we did it back in the old days was that if a customer, and this was because back then mainly people paid with cash and check, so we'd take the check or the cash, deposit into the escrow account, and then when we had to pay the supplier, we wrote the check out of the escrow account. Times are different today. It's usually just going straight to the supplier, and most people aren't paying by cash or check anymore. So
Mhm.
as much as I'd love to see something like that come back, I don't think that, I don't know that that'll happen.
Mhm. Okay. I've got a couple quick other questions for you, and then I'm going to turn the reins over to you. Do you think it would be good to invite clients to a virtual Zoom webinar with your favorite suppliers, not as a sales pitch, but rather as learning about destinations?
Sure. Why can't you do it?
Hmm.
I think you
Yeah.
should, but the way that you um, tell people about your expertise is you do it. If you're bringing in a supplier, all you're doing is saying they're the expert. I'm just here to take your money.
Mhm.
That's ideally how you would do it. But yes, do I think it's a good idea? Absolutely. Absolutely. Make sure
Mhm.
you use your account so that you keep the addresses and everything else. Okay.
Mhm.
Otherwise, they go into the company database and away you go. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think that'd be great. And it allows you to communicate with it. I would also maybe do a virtual happy hour. Show your pictures, show your travel pictures, you know,
Yeah.
share them
I have
so
a
like
friend
it's,
who is healthy home cleaning kind of thing, and she does Facebook Live, and I never miss those. They're so neat because she gives me cleaning tips, and so not even doing a webinar, but just a Facebook Live, and I like that because I can go back and look at it later. But
yeah. I mean, and outside of that, good for a friend of mine, Corey Underchuck, his son plays the piano every day at 5 o'clock Pacific time, Facebook live feed for 30 minutes. And I'm there just about every day. It's become through this, it's become, one of those things that you look forward to about staying on schedule. Okay. What else we
mhm.
got? I know we're running short on time here for you.
Revenue streams. What do you think about being an Amazon affiliate? Um,
Yeah.
Click links.
Yes. The answer is yes. If you've
Yeah.
got things that you could sell, just know that I think their rule is if you don't sell anything through those affiliate links, in a 90-day period, they turn it inactive.
Okay.
But yes,
Okay. Last
whatever you
question.
can do to start generating money, and I don't mean just now, but you should
Yeah.
always look at different revenue streams for your business.
Yes. Okay, last question for you. It's probably a big one, but how do you get a niche? How do you decide what you're going to specialize in? You could do a whole webinar on that.
Well, to be honest with you, there is a 5-step process that you can go through, and it's in Module 1, the foundation of the Sales Acceleration System, which is the course within the inner circle. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I could sit. It is literally, you could make a course out of it. But ideally, you want to look at what your passion is. Okay, then you want to look at, are there enough people in that passion that share the passion? Can you monetize it? Then you test it, then you sell it. That's the 5-step process in a nutshell.
All right.
The key being
Okay.
you have an audience for it, and can you sell it?
Okay. Well, Jan would like to see your rates one more time, if you don't mind bringing that slide up, and I'll let you use that as a wrap up, or if you want to continue on, I'm gonna bug out here in a second, but I don't want to cut you short.
Fantastic. Thanks for your help, Leigh. We'll just wrap up after this because I can't read and talk at the same time. But if you have any other questions, just send them, post them into the chat, and we'll take a look at it. Okay, what was the question again? I'm sorry.
You get to do your pitch again to talk about all the great things you can do for people.
Oh, well, outside
She
of
wanted
that.
to know about that again.
Yeah. So, really and truly, the fact is we have a time in our industry that you will never see again. We're basically shut down. I think tour companies, suppliers can do limited reinvention, but I think we have a blank slate to work with. I think I've said that a lot. Everything I've shared with you today is strictly my opinion, but I'm here to serve. I've been doing this for a long time. The reason I left a very lucrative job, at WinStart was because I wanted to coach. I have a passion for that. So that's my niche. I have my niche that I've developed within coaching. And so there's a lot of, you can do the same thing, but ideally you want to position yourself to be ready to go. And do we know when that's going to be? No, but you know what? I think the most important thing you can do right now is stay on schedule. Schedule. Make sure you keep the habits or develop the habits that are going to carry you on later on after all this is over. That's getting out of bed. That's making your bed. That's doing the little tasks instead of thinking about this big Herculean thing and getting depressed over it like I was. I was like, taking on the weight of the world. Let me just take on this much of it. And I can do a better job doing it that way than I can doing the big bucket. I'm not good with big buckets. I need little steps to get into that bucket. So what we'll do on our private strategy session is, we'll sit down and talk about your business, where you want it to be, what you're going to look like. And we'll talk about, okay, here's how much you want to make. Here's the strategy. Here's the suppliers we're going to look at. Here's the host agency you want to consider if you're not in one already, or you may be in the wrong one. What are the suppliers, the marketing part of it, and of course the prospecting part of it. And we go through that 6-step process of foundation, the whole sales acceleration thing, because it's a repeatable system. You have to, you don't have to sell everything to everybody. You can position yourself so that you come out of this pretty quick. And I think one thing about working with a coach, just in general, is the results tend to be, and this was a LinkedIn survey, tend to be 7 times what those who typically don't work with a coach. But it helps to have, someone from the outside. Like I said, I work with a coach. I have got 2 coaching programs, but my main coach is about online business, because I don't know anything about it. I know some. I'm very good at what I do, I think, but I don't know that piece of it and as well. So that's what I'm doing. And that's why I would encourage you. And, obviously I would appreciate it if you work with me, but there's other sources out there. And if we look at it and say, you know what, you're not a good fit for what I teach and what I do, I'll be happy to recommend you to someone else. The coaching community, we're all here collectively. We want you to succeed. That's why we're here. And if one doesn't, we don't like that. It's like the stool. You want to make sure all the legs of the stool are propped up there. What else do we have? Keep your head up, man. That's all I could say is keep your head up. Take advantage of this time with your family. Take advantage of this to take care of yourself physically. Don't just sit on the couch or sit in the chair in front of the computer. Get out and walk around the block. We can do that. That's permitted. The more movement that you do, eat right, do what you have to do. But don't go to Costco if you can't help it. Don't go to the grocery store if you can't help it. If you got a neighbor kid, or a lot of these folks have delivery services, stay at home. I cannot stress that. I live in the state of Washington where all this started. My daughter lives right across the street from the nursing home where it all started. Literally, they turn the camera around, you can see down the street that she's at the end of. Do what they say. Social distancing is working here, and if these whether it's Amazon, Kroger, QFC, whatever your Publix, they have delivery services. They deliver that. And on top of that, support your local businesses, restaurants. If you're tired of cooking at home, get somebody in one of the local restaurants to deliver. Don't go to a chain restaurant. Go to one of the local ones. They need your help and support more than anybody else, because they're just like us. They're small business people struggling to survive. And we are all in this together. So with that, I would like to say thank you so much. Keep your heads up. If you feel like you're getting down, it's a choice. We make the choice of which side of the bed to get out on. And I'm here to help you support your dreams. So thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank every one of you for taking time out to join us.
Bye. Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much. Thanks, Dan. That was great.
Yeah, and there'll be a recording, and I'll as soon as I get it, I'll post it out there.
Yep. Take care.
Okay.